Guys, welcome back. It's Megan here from OrganizedLittleLady, and today I want to talk to you about back to school organization. This video series is going to be a two-part series. So today for part one, I'm going to just sit and talk to you guys about how I planned for this year and the process that I used in order to do that. And the second part will be showing you guys my organizational systems and spaces throughout my home. So let's talk about back to school. We are starting later this year. That's why this video is coming out later. I apologize for anyone who has already started, but you might find some tidbits helpful in this series. So we are starting September 14th, and we are starting remote, fully remote, the whole district. And the plan is that if we meet certain guidelines, we will transition back into in-person learning at some point in the year. So basically, I wanted to get myself prepared for all possible scenarios. That's just what eases my anxiety. And so that's what I did. This year, I did want to simplify my planning process as much as possible because this whole thing seems overwhelming. And the last thing I wanted to do was add to that overwhelmed feeling. So this year I used what I call the 4S system for planning, and I actually created a free printable on my Facebook group for printables. I'll leave the link down below for that, but basically it is a 4-quadrant planning template, and the sections are students, supplies, spaces, and schedules, the 4 S's that I knew I needed to organize in order to feel prepared for this school year. So let's start by each category. Students, I just wrote down a list of things that I needed to get done for my children. If you're not familiar, I have 3 children, Dylan, who is going into 7th grade, Blake, who is going into 4th grade, and Julia, who is going into 2nd grade. I also watch my friend's daughter full time, so she will be joining us also for the remote learning. She's Julia's age going into 2nd grade, so that works out really well. So basically, I wrote down everything that I needed to do in order to get my students or children organized for this upcoming year and the tasks that I needed to get done before school started. So really, in this category, I needed to focus on 2 different things. Number 1, getting them onto schedules, and number 2, haircuts. That was kind of the only thing that I needed to put into these categories and the tasks that I needed to make sure I completed before school started. Now let's go over into the supply list. So my supply list, I wrote down every supply that I needed to purchase in order to get myself and my children organized for back to school. Everything. So school lists, home supplies that you might need, including desks or any workstation areas, and their clothing, sneakers, anything like that went into that list. So I had a very detailed list of everything I had to purchase in my supply list. The next category is schedules. This is something that I am very passionate about, and like I said in the second part series, I will break down our back to school schedule in more detail, but today I just wanted to talk to you about the planning process. So the schedules, I broke this down to before school started and once school is in session. That way I knew when I needed to start transitioning my children into more of a school schedule. And I always try to do this a few weeks before school actually starts. This year we're starting remote, which means we're not transitioning locations. So I really wanted to be intentional about their schedules because it might not feel like back to school time if we're still home, right? So transitioning their schedules early will just help them ease into back to school. So it's not like, oh my gosh, it's the first day of school. Hurry up, you have to get up, we have to eat, we have to log on, blah, blah, blah. So I really wanted to make sure that they were transitioning before school into their new routines. So what that means for my family is starting them out with a good evening routine and a good morning routine. So our evening routine, I bumped up bedtime. In summertime, we kind of got lax. They went to bed a lot later, but now that we have to be up and logged on by a specific time in our remote learning template, they have to go to bed earlier. So I started slowly pushing up bedtime. And this will just help them get up earlier. So that brings me to the morning routine. Having certain things designated to the morning. So every single morning they have to get up, they have to get dressed, they brush their hair, brush their teeth, have breakfast, make their beds, all of that. So again, I just slowly started pushing up those times so that way they can transition back to school easier. Once school starts, again, I want to still implement the morning and evening routines, but add in a school schedule day. So this is kind of easy because our school has given us a pretty regimented schedule throughout the day that they will be following, but they have a couple breaks in there. And I also wanted to do something active with them after school because they will be sitting at their computers most of the day. So I sat down and I kind of thought about what would make sense for our family, for our schedule, and wrote that down. And again, I will be sharing that with you in Friday's video. So that was kind of what I had to focus on for schedules. The last thing that I knew I needed to really organize were our spaces. So again, we are going to be starting remote. So that means I need to have spaces that are designated for learning, just so that way it's almost like a switch on their brain, like, okay, this is our learning area, this is where we have to sit down and concentrate. Because doing all the schoolwork from home, there's a lot of distractions. We're home. I'm not their teacher, I'm their mom. So I think just having specific areas for them to do their schoolwork in might help them concentrate a little bit better. So for my older son, Dylan, he's actually going to be doing his schoolwork in his room. So he has a desk there. We have organized the desk and his supplies up there. And then Blake, Julia, and the girl that I babysit for, they're going to be in the playroom. So that way I have all three of them in one area so I can easily help them with whatever they need help with. I also set up little work boxes for them. So they have bins where all their supplies go, and they can take that wherever they want. So it's not, we do have a desk set up for them, but they don't necessarily have to sit at that desk all day. They can take their bin of supplies and go wherever they are comfortable in the playroom where we're setting up our learning area. So those spaces needed to be organized and thought out well for in-home learning. I also wanted to organize a few other spaces in our home so that way we could transition into in-person learning if that does happen. So some of those areas are our family command center. This is where all of our calendars, schedules, paperwork, incoming and outgoing get organized. I also wanted to organize an area for their homework command center. So that way, if they do go back to in-person learning, we have an area designated where their homework supplies and station will go. And I also wanted to organize a drop zone. So where they will be keeping their backpacks and anything that they need either coming in or out of the house. So those are the main spaces that I wanted to organize. So I put that into that category. That was basically how I planned out this year. And it helped me focus on the areas that I needed to focus on and forget the rest. I really did hone in on to the students, supplies, spaces, and schedules, the 4 S's, and it made a huge difference in thinking about the organization and doing it. So I have created, like I said, a free printable for you guys on my Facebook group, so you can check that out, print it out if you would like. If you've already gotten yourself organized for back to school this year, you can use it for next year. But I feel a lot better knowing that we have a plan and I have the planning process already done. So Friday, I'm going to show you guys the spaces that I have organized for our back to school process. So the playroom, our command center, our homework center, and their at-home learning areas, and our mudroom, our drop zone. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and take a look at that template. It really did help me get organized for back to school this year tremendously. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will talk to you soon. Bye guys.